All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is June 17th, 2025, and this meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council is now called to order. Ms. Vermillion, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Buck.
Here.
Councilor Afghan is on Zoom. Councilor Maboop.
Here.
Wendland.
Here.
Verdict.
Here.
Corrigan.
Here.
And Councilor Raff is excused.
Thank you very much. And now, folks, will you please stand, remove your hats, and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we start tonight with our proclamation for this year's Juneteenth. We are approaching a day that commemorates the end of slavery in the United States, which marks a significant milestone in the ongoing pursuit of liberty and justice for African Americans. The city of Lake Oswego stands in solidarity with Black communities across the nation in affirming that the fight for racial justice and civil rights is not confined to the past. It remains a responsibility we all share today. We are reminded that of the power in the past. In addition to this proclamation, we invite you to join us this Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. for the Juneteenth in Lake Oswego at Millennium Plaza Park celebration. This will be a time to recognize freedom, resilience, and culture. You'll find this proclamation as well as other proclamations of the city on our website. And next on the agenda is the time set aside for public comment. I don't know if do we have any? I see our city team members here in the crowd, so which is great. Hello, welcome. All right, I don't think we have anyone here for public comment. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda this evening is item 6.1. This is resolution 25-05, which adjusts compensation for management and confidential positions. Item 6.2, resolution 25-29, this approves City of Lake Oswego to enter into an IGA for the city to receive reimbursement to offset debris removal costs from the storm of January 2024. And we have item 6.3, which is resolution 25-30. This adopts a benefits policy. And before we vote on that policy, I just want to note for the record that all council members may have a potential financial conflict of interest with that benefits policy, since we could all occasionally receive food or beverages during city-related meetings. Because every member of the council shares this same potential conflict, and because council must act to adopt a consistent policy, we are allowed to proceed under what's known as the rule of necessity. So I'm just making this disclosure to ensure that our decision is transparent and appropriately recorded. So with that, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, the motion has been made by Councilor Mboop and seconded by Councilor Verdict. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. And did Councilor Afghan? Yes, so that motion passes 6-0. Okay. And then we have, for consideration of the city councilors only, item 8.1, which is adopting resolution 25-06. This approves our appointments to our city advisory boards and commissions. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 25-06?
Move to adopt resolution 25-06.
Second.
Right, the motion's been made by Councilor Corrigan and seconded by Councilor Mboop. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I abstain. All right, that motion passes 5-0 with mayor abstention. Okay, now on to council business. We start with item 9.1. This is a Foothills District Plan RFP contract award. We have Mr. Olson, Long Range Planning Manager, here to talk to us about this and the next item on the agenda. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Mayor Buck and City Council. That's correct. I'm actually here with two council business items today related to the Foothills plan update. The first is related to the approval of the contract for the request for proposals for the Foothills update work. As you may or may not recall, we had a study session here back in March, on March 18th, to talk a little bit about the sort of plan for that project and some of the pieces of that RFP, some of those deliverables that we're expecting from this consultant team. You could find more information about that in the contract and some of the materials that were attached to the report for this. Ultimately, we're looking to pass a motion ideally today to authorize the city manager to sign a professional services contract with First 40 Feet, who was the selected consultant, for an amount not to exceed $623,000 for this work. Just a little bit of background on the RFP process itself. We released the RFP on March 7th and received proposals on April 10th from 3 firms. We were hoping for maybe a little bit better of a response, but they were really great responses, actually really big sort of multidisciplinary teams that had put together applications for this work. So 3 proposals from, probably more like 25 or so different consultants in total. So a lot of sort of folks that were getting together teams and putting things together for this work. We ended up deciding to announce our intent to award the contract to First 40 Feet. This is a consultant that a lot of us hadn't really been too familiar with, but has done a lot of work in both the Portland region and across the river, across the Columbia in Washington, kind of in Vancouver and some of the areas near there. So, we really thought that this was, the team really seemed to have the best understanding of the existing context within this area, some of the sort of different pieces that that are going to be really important to consider for this district moving forward, and in particular the status of the wastewater treatment plant work. I think overall we were really excited about the approach that this team had outlined both in their proposal and in the interviews that we conducted, to really take a very economically minded approach to this while still not sacrificing sort of larger urban design vision and sort of those sort of organizing principles for the project as a whole. So, there was a lot of talk of 3D modeling and sort of visualizing the different sort of planning concepts iteratively so that we can see what they would look like at different phases of implementation, so that we wouldn't just kind of see this big sort of beautiful end product, but we know kind of what it could look like sort of over time as the area develops and certain parcels develop before others. So I think this is something that will be really successful for the project, thinking about how all those pieces come together and are integrated over time. I think in general there was some really great creative community engagement ideas from this team, as well as just a new and kind of fresh perspective from folks that, again, it's a sort of an emerging small business here, so it is an opportunity for them, but they do have the requisite experience that we were really wanting to see here. And again, really just a really strong understanding of the context of the area and some insight on what led to the sort of project not moving forward the last time, and what some obstacles we could face what this project could be and how to address those. So sort of in the spirit of really wanting to see this come to fruition, we thought that this was a great team that could sort of balance that pragmatic concern with the idea of really bringing something new and exciting to this area of the city. So you can see a little bit more on the elements of the RFP and all the things that are going to be included within the scope and the contract. There were some additions to what we actually proposed in the RFP based on some of the responses we got from this team that we thought were great. Really a little bit more economic analysis for those conceptual and schematic level alternatives, so that we don't get too far with one particular concept before we realize, oh, this isn't financially feasible, basically. So anyway, I think we're really happy with where we've landed with this team. Again, a fresh perspective, and also some folks that have worked with the city in previous iterations for, in particular, the code writing team. Debbie Cleek helped us out with some of the Merrillhurst work, as well as Nick Popenook, who's going to help out with some of the economic development pieces, who has helped us out actually with some previous urban renewal work for Foothills, some of the previous rounds of analysis, along with Elaine Howard. So that really, I could talk a little bit more about the proposal and about the consultant team, but I don't want to go into too much detail. But the first sort of motion that we're bringing to you would be to approve that contract with this consultant team. I'm happy to take any questions on that before I go into the Community Advisory Committee. If I can just pause, or I can just go through them both if you prefer.
Thank you, Mr. Azolos. And yeah, well, does anyone have any questions about the contract? Councilor Corrigan?
So the Metro grant was for how much?
The Metro grant was for, is I think a little bit under 750,000. So this is for 623, I think it was actually 634,000, something along those lines. But basically we have another 110,000 or so that's going towards the city to fund some of our staff work internally. And 623 would go to the consultant.
Great, that's great, thanks.
And that's kind of a lengthy contract, but will they be holding the work they end up doing with the advisory board, like in person?
Yes, there was a
hybrid?
strong desire to do in-person community engagement, absolutely. And even, some creative ways to think about that, maybe having more of a consistent presence in certain areas of the city where folks can kind of pop in and provide some community sort of feedback and just sort of interesting ideas for how we could receive that. A lot of it would be in person or various different sort of in-person interactions that we could try to get along the way.
Okay, very good. And with the meetings too, with the stakeholder or the
absolutely, the community advisory committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Councilor.
Is there enough when you're gathering information, not just special interest community groups, but are we going to be able to reach out to the community as a whole in a statistically significant way that's
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the really interesting parts of this particular consultant team was their use of sort of a survey and polling firm that actually is designed, so this is in kind of addition to the types of community engagement that we would normally conduct for a project like this, but really trying to get a good sense, a statistically sound sort of, quantitative sense of how folks feel about the issues and how folks feel about different ideas for what we could be doing in that particular area of the city. So yeah, DHM is the research firm that would be included in this consultant team. And they would be, really making sure that we're getting that sort of statistically significant sample size for the work that they're doing, in addition to the other sort of robust community engagement that's being proposed here.
Okay, because last time we did this, I think we missed the boat, and it created regime change.
Yeah.
It really changed everything, and I would rather go through a positive process to ensure that we have lots of voices and not a kind of a select few that are making the majority of the decisions.
Absolutely, yeah, I think that's going to be critical to the success of this project, absolutely. And I think this is a great team to get us there. Their approach to community engagement, I think you'll see a bit of it in the outline, and we're going to come to you with a public involvement strategy and kind of show you a little bit more detail further down the road. That's one of the deliverables. But we do expect there to be, a lot of in-person events related to this, but also to, reflect the fact that this isn't being led by, stakeholders or property owners within the Foothills district. This time around, it's a city-led effort, so we're really trying to pull from as many different, parts of the city as we can to get some, relevant input on what should happen in this part of the city, and to bring in folks early in the process to help us, make those decisions and help guide us along the way.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have some new outside help on this project. It seems like a good group, so I'm glad that we've
Can I make a
connected with them.
motion?
Yes, please, Councilor.
Move to authorize the city manager to sign a professional services contract with First 40 Feet in the amount not to exceed $623,000 for planning consultant services to revisit and substantially update the Foothills District Framework Plan.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made by Councilor Wendland and seconded by Councilor Burdick. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and Councilor Afghan has voted in the affirmative, so that motion passes 6-0. And now Mr. Olson's going to talk to us about Resolution 25-33, which is establishing this Foothills District Community Advisory Committee.
Great. Thanks again, Mayor Buck and Council. This is actually going to respond a little bit more directly to what you were just asking Councilor Wendland about ways that we are attempting to create wider representation of the community within this community advisory committee. So as Mayor Buck mentioned, this is, we're talking about a resolution to create an ad hoc community advisory committee for the Foothills District Plan update. Really, this is something that we had envisioned, before we even applied for the grant as a critical part of this process, and something that, we are hoping to work with that consultant team to utilize to the best possible way as we can for this project. The idea is to essentially create a representative group of local individuals with a lot of that sort of local knowledge and expertise that we need here in the city that is going to be unique to folks that actually live here and have that experience. And folks with sort of relevant professional experience as well. So looking at folks with land use planning or urban design, architecture, landscape architecture, sustainability, infrastructure planning, environmental planning, things of that nature. In general, we are looking for a membership that would include at least one non-voting representative from City Council. So that would be something that we would like to know who that is at some point. A non-voting representative from the Planning Commission, in addition to entirely community representatives other than those. So want to get at least one resident of the Foothills neighborhood, at least one community member with sort of a diversity, equity, and inclusion set of expertise. Could be members of the DEI advisory board or affinity groups or other sort of identity-based community groups. We're looking for at least one community member under the age of 18, ideally more than one, I guess. This is one opportunity that a lot of times when we do boards and commissions work at the Planning Commission, we aren't able to appoint youth members to that particular commission. So this is an exciting opportunity to work with those sort of community members under the age of 18, which we don't get that many opportunities to do in planning. So this is great. Looking for, again, hopefully more than one individual with background in urban design, sort of a professional background in urban design, including, again, as I was pointing out, land use planners, architects, landscape architects, or developers that specifically have a connection to Lake Oswego. Looking also for folks, with that sort of infrastructure planning and engineering expertise. That's going to be a big part of the work here, particularly transportation planning and thinking about access and barriers to access to certain areas. So that's something we're going to be looking for too. And sustainability is the other piece here. So looking for folks that have some professional experience or knowledge of sustainability or are members of LOSN or the Sustainability Advisory Board. That would be another sort of way to show that expertise. So that's, we're hoping to do a solicitation as opposed to, specific appointments for those individuals, but are hoping to fill those slots within the sort of broader solicitation. I will then go on to just, I guess, explain, the ideas for the Community Advisory Committee is to provide guidance to staff and the Planning Commission as we go through this process of updating the plan, really ensuring that it reflects current community values, not necessarily what was assumed last time, as well as current council goals. We would expect them to meet for approximately 10 different sessions from September 2025 through about August of, or I guess it's June 2027 actually, but well, in the resolution, it's August because I wanted a little bit more time, a little bit more flexibility there. So anyway, there's a little bit more in the resolution about some of the specific expertise we're looking for, and specifically, the deliverables that we're going to need their input for. And this is all, again, kind of consistent with what was in the contract and the sort of deliverables there. But yeah, this is what we're hoping to do to get started. This would be supplemented by a technical advisory committee as well, providing a little bit more oversight on the project sort of from a general sort of technical lens, and then the community advisory committee would be making more recommendations based on that technical guidance. And this is, again, in addition to other robust, comprehensive engagement that we're planning to conduct as a part of this process. This is just one piece of that. So with that, I guess I'd mentioned we do have this resolution 2533 to form the Ad Hoc Foothills Advisory Committee for your consideration.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Olson. Here, Councilor Winland.
The only thing that I think you're missing in the groups is somebody from the Chamber of the Business Community.
Yeah.
Because I think that's not in here. And then I would suggest if you're going to have youth members, which I fully support, you better get them as a sophomore if you're going to have a 3-year commitment, or have it where they can phase in and phase out, because
It's a few years, yeah.
they leave and they go off to college. So
Somebody
if
with
you
a
get
commitment to stay in some
Yeah.
way, yeah.
If you get a senior, they'll be up and about usually. So anyway, just food for thought. But
I agree with that. We could, and we'll be soliciting, and we could have an eye, probably in particular towards, business owners in the downtown area, a business owner.
Right.
And I imagine there'll be folks already interested in applying.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I would just also mention we do have plans for specific direct engagement with local business owners in the district, of course, and that would extend to other business owners in the downtown area, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't include them in the CAC as well.
yeah, if we're going to have a community base, we need to have everybody at the table.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, we can
Is good.
add that in. It sounds like, yeah, there's good consensus to add that in. And then I think for the technical advisory committee, but definitely, this may already be in the works, but having some transportation element, whether that's someone from the consortium or TriMet. advising on
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, that is definitely what we had been thinking. So in addition to potentially TriMet, ODOT as well, obviously with Highway 43 is going to be an important stakeholder here too. So those were definitely folks that we intended to include in the technical advisory committee, but yeah, we could modify the CAC in some way to not focus as much on transportation, or, I'm not sure if you have any suggestions for the CAC, but.
The CAC, we don't really have any transportation element to it. Yeah, I didn't know if the CAC should have that element. I mean, it just isn't going to be like a community member. That's the thing, it'd be a
Yeah, I
agency
think,
person, so the technical.
I think that might be more suited for the technical piece, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I think too, like to what Councilor Windland was saying earlier, it'd be good having, because I know, and we talked about this prior, there, in the past, when they went through this process, there was like a separate kind of council group, that was also receiving check-ins, so it was not the full council, but like a subset of the council. There was a CAC, I don't know if they had a technical group, but then there was also this kind of council group, and we didn't do that this time, but I think we'll definitely want to keep the council in the loop, apart from the wonderful job I know whoever we make the liaison is going to do reporting back to us. They're going to follow Councilor Corrigan's example on the fire station and provide every meeting updates. But it would still be, I think, really good because it's such an important and large plan. It's like our last big neighborhood that we want to make sure we're on
you
track.
have 7 meetings with us on the.
Oh, that's good. On the
So,
schedule.
and I think those are definitely spaced out in between.
Yeah.
We want them to be substantive,
Yeah.
to come to you with some content to chew on and to get some direction at those meetings. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm open to a structure where we provide more ongoing, regular updates in some capacity, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but I think we would want to present to the full council at least, and hopefully not just a small subset.
No, yeah, the full council. And it would be helpful too. I mean, like we were talking about with the youth, I mean, this plan is going to have to span different councils, so we want to.
Yeah,
No, we don't want to
Correct.
have happen what happened the last time.
Right.
No one-day urban renewal area.
It was 2 weeks.
Right, right.
Ideally. It's a good opportunity to have the
It was 2 weeks.
support from Metro
Well,
and the grant. and all
yeah,
the
we
effort
need
as well.
stages where we can get, there has to be some timing in this so that we can get major concepts before the community so we can get some
Buy-in.
pretty good feedback and buy-in. Because I think, yeah, the instantaneous magic wand of side council subcommittees, I mean, it changed the administration. And it was probably the most, at least since I've been around for a while, I mean, it was the most divisive
Yeah.
time in Lake Oswego's little history for a while. So I would like to prevent that and get community, and part of it is that there's a portion of this that we have to have a really well laid out purpose of this space because it's part of our housing goals. So, some people may not think that we should put housing down there, but we should create our own little soccer stadium. Just saying, no, but I think, there's all kinds of different things that people may have dreams about, but I think we're locked in already to have this space provide a lot of housing for our production goals. And it's,
Yeah.
so I think there's just some things that we need to make sure that everyone knows, parameters, I guess, that we have to work
Absolutely,
with.
yeah.
So,
Well, we do have too the example of the Lake Grove Village Center plan, which went well, but it took a lot of work too, and that brought the neighbors and kind of an example of neighbors and business community coming together. And Councilor Corrigan said about firsthand. But that wasn't necessarily easy, and obviously it took a long time. But it is a good example of a big kind of infrastructure project. This will be bigger, but that we were able to bring the community together around and having it was really that stakeholder advisory group that really made all the difference, and really strong support from the city, of course, and it was unique at the time having such good. Because they tend to be the business community in the neighborhood tend to do different things. And so this kind of bringing them together served a good purpose there, and making sure like the most impacted folks on the project were directly involved was also pretty critical. And we can anticipate, it's going to be.
School district, for example. The school district would be a good member to be part because they're going to be impacted by.
Oh. Well, yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
housing there impacted them. We have to.
Yeah, we had envisioned including them in the technical advisory committee, I think, at some point.
Yes.
They're probably going to be more interested in some of those numbers and the sort of, I guess, maybe that level of the engagement, but I'm open to suggestions. Yeah.
Okay. And when are we gonna start the procurement for this?
As soon as possible.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
we'd be getting going here probably next week.
Oh.
Yep. But then we would come back to you on September 2nd to appoint members. So we'd have that solicitation, the application window would be for about a month and a half.
And we are not, this is a good structure that we've got identified here, but we're not limited, to these either. So, we can all as community members be helping to recruit and put out word about this, and then be thinking about these different roles and whatnot, so.
Yeah, this is, these are the slots that we want at least one of, but it's certainly, not meant to preclude any other sort of folks with different experience that is relevant to the project. So.
Okay. So does someone want to, is there any more questions? Someone want to make a motion, but let's add that amendment of the business owner.
Oh.
Do you want to do that?
move to adopt Resolution 25-33 with the addition of a business community Chamber of Commerce person.
Second?
All right. A motion was made by Councilor Woodland, seconded by Councilor Corrigan. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, next up is item 9.3. This is consideration of resolution 25-35. Has to do with the municipal grant programs. Mr. Bruner,
Mayor Buck,
good to have you here.
members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Quinn Bruner. I'm an analyst in the city manager's office, and I'm here today talking about our restructure of the municipal grant program. So we began this project about a year and a half ago with the aim of improving how we fund our community partners. I plan to take no more than 10 minutes to talk through what we've done so far. But before I do that, I'm going to start by talking very specifically about the resolution under consideration tonight. So Resolution 25-35 does three very specific things. They are establishing 3 grant programs that we will run for this upcoming fiscal year 2026. It sets their funding levels, and it authorizes the designated selection committees to expend city funds. So those are the 3 actions encompassed in this resolution. This action is meant to be an annual exercise. So every year, the municipal grant subcommittee would review the city's existing grant programs, recommend changes, and bring a new configuration to the council for consideration. This is a change in structure. And so as we talked about a couple months ago, we now have a central hub for all of the city's grant programs, which is the municipal grant subcommittee. Money all comes out of the same account in the council budget. We annually review grant programs as a package and recommend rebalancing them based on council priorities and community needs. And we designate spending authority to the selection committees, whereas previously selection committees made recommendations to the council and the council approved each individual allocation. So this keeps the council's role more policy focused, where you set criteria and dollar amounts, and then you delegate the authority to others to execute your vision. I see this superstructure as a really solid home for the city's grant programs, and one that puts the power in your all's hands to ensure that grant funding is aligned with council's priorities. It also, my read is that there's still some work that we can do on the individual grant programs, but this overarching structure enables that to happen while ensuring that we get money out the door to our community partners who are expecting it this upcoming fiscal year. And it also alleviates some longstanding pain points. So this work is not done, but this is a really meaningful step towards like creating the change process that we've imagined. And we've got a really seamless transition here to make sure this keeps going. So I'm gonna pause here. Any thoughts on the pragmatics before I dive into some background here? Feeling all right? Okay. So let's see. So we started with the review of how we fund our, can you be able to help me here? I've seen this move at all. Oh, there we go. Okay. Perfect. So we started with a review of how we fund our community partners and identified 7 overarching recommendations. Now, these were included in your packet. I'm not going to go through these one-on-one, but I just wanted to put them up on the screen. For the sake of this project, we excluded consideration of the long-standing funding relationships we have with community partners. While that is an area that we can continue to do some work on, and we've identified some areas for improvement, that's outside of the scope of what I'm talking to you about tonight. So we focused then on 4 existing grant programs. Those were our historic preservation grants, our historic education grants, our municipal grants, and our neighborhood enhancement program. So I'm not going to tell you about everything included in each of these buckets. We'll kind of get into that as we move through. So the first action we took is we combined our historic preservation and education grants. They are both administered by the Historic Resources Advisory Board. They both serve very similar functions, but they just did it through different mechanisms. And so by putting them on the same application and by giving the Historic Resources Advisory Board the discretion to be able to balance both priorities with one big pool instead of 2 small pools, it made it a more nimble and responsive program that could effectively accomplish the stated aims, right? We also previously funded the Heritage Council through our municipal grant program, which was out of place with the restructure, so that's why we went up to $25,000 in that pool. The next thing we did here was we worked with the Neighborhood Chairs Coalition and many of our partners in the neighborhood associations to identify the primary things we were funding with the Neighborhood Enhancement Program. We found that by far and away the proposals we funded most frequently were under $1,000, and they were for basic administrative expenses. Things like Zoom licenses, like website fees, funding for the neighborhood picnics, meeting signs. And these are all things that are critical to the operations of the neighborhood association, but it's really weird to fund on an annual basis through a competitive pool. And so I worked with Eric, actually, and Iris to create a new program in the planning department, which is just called Funding for Neighborhood Associations. We have a pre-approved list of expenditures, and any neighborhood association can spend up to $1,000 on things on this pre-approved list. They submit their receipts any time of year, and they're able to get the money that they need to keep their neighborhood association functioning at a high level. So that is, we took $30,000 out of the neighborhood enhancement program, and we put it in this new program that is, I don't consider a grant. I consider this to be just program administration. So that was our second action. The third thing we did here is in our municipal grants, we had 3 priorities. One was funding social service organizations, another was funding one-off special projects, and another was cultural events. Those were very different from each other, and it was sometimes challenging to have really valuable organizations like the Clackamas County Women's Shelter competing with a proposal from a high school, right? And so we want to fund both, but we don't want them in the same competitive grant pool. And so we made sure that we can continue supporting our social service partners, but we are looking at social service entities in one bucket, and we're looking at other grant proposals that are time limited and are focused on specific outcomes in another. So we pulled out the social services grants here so that we can keep supporting those partners. And then we are left with both the municipal grants and the neighborhood enhancement programs. We're funding special events as well as special projects. So And the neighborhood front, those are anything from painting wooden signs to putting in small pathways on private land. In the municipal grant side, we had a whole bunch of these are maybe installing concrete pads for art or other types of cool, small, really enriching projects, right? And so rather than having our grant program separated based on who is applying in the previous iteration, municipal grants were only eligible for, only nonprofit entities could apply for municipal grants, and only neighborhood associations could apply for neighborhood enhancement programs. We organized these based on the outcomes we were trying to achieve, so that for any special events and for any special projects, you just apply to the council goal grants, is what we have here. So we didn't change the amount of money being spent, we just reorganized the administrative structures through which we are issuing these funds. Finally here, we took the municipal grants umbrella and we took the municipal grants name and repurposed that as the program umbrella here. So whereas previously municipal grants was one small specific program that had a clear set of priorities and it was one of many grants, when we refer to municipal grants now, we're talking about the whole collection of programs that you see up here, as these are the municipal grant programs that the city administers. You can also do that differently if you'd like, but that's just semantics. So I can go plenty further into the weeds here, and I'm happy to answer questions. I see this as a critical first step in restructuring our grant programs, and that we now have a centralized home, and we have a clear oversight body that will be providing annual reviews so that as council priorities change, the funding priorities can be responsive. As we begin opening up applications for these proposals, I'm excited by the meaningful, transformative, community-generated initiatives that we can continue supporting. But happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation. No, I think it's great, the work that you've done here restructuring this. I think it will make it, much more clear for the community, because there has been lots of, from time to time, confusion over the years over, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And I think this is much more transparent and will allow for a smoother process that also advances, the goals that we're working on here within the city. And honestly, it really is great, too, because we're keeping the funding the same, but then we've moved some things to at least, or would be to sponsorship. So in a way, we're kind of enhancing their overall bucket of things, community projects and organizations that we're able to support and fund in the city that are really important, and frankly, for which there is not much other funding to support them. So it's good. Councilor Corrigan.
Yeah. So I have a question and a comment. This is my third year serving on the Municipal Grant Committee, and this is great. This makes it so much better for us. So I appreciate all your work on it. And so last week, we actually went through the cycle for the first time with Historic Resource Advisory Board, and it worked really well. There was a little bit of confusion, and I'm not sure what the process is for tweaking the language. I know we're just getting started. There was a little bit of confusion about where the beneficiary had to be cited. And will those changes be made like at the level of the PRAB, or is that something that someone in your position will handle? I mean, how will that work?
No, that's a terrific question. And so I'd say on all three of these individual grant programs, there's going to be a constant iteration, a constant iterative process of refining the criteria by which we're evaluating groups and also refining the decision-making processes. And so I'm going to maybe avoid speaking too specifically about the HRAB deliberation, but I think that this is one where I guess maybe the easiest way of describing this would be to describe kind of the life cycle of, or like the annual cycle here. And so the way sorry, Councilor Corrigan, I can answer this two ways. So specifically with HRAB, I think that's just a conversation that Paul can have with the board in July, and they will kind of like calibrate. Like, I don't know that that's necessarily a program level. Like, I don't think the criteria is off. I think it's just something that they need to define, like, their decision-making processes, and that's something that they can work on collaboratively. If we are looking to make broader changes to the criteria by which we award grants, right, that's something where at the beginning of every calendar year, council will set their annual goals. The Municipal Grant Subcommittee will then be appointed in January as well, because those are annual appointments. And then that group will meet for the first time in February or March. They will review the existing grant programs, and they will consider which programs need to exist, and then which criteria they'll use to evaluate. There'll be kind of a back and forth with staff about how to make those changes, and then council can set the allocations based on the demand that there are for those resources, as well as what council wants to prioritize. Did that answer your question? or
No,
is
that sounds great. I think that's the kind of process that will keep it really functional. It sounds great.
Sure thing.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Winland.
So, 2 questions.
Really.
Was there consideration or discussion about putting limits on a grant? And then what's the outcome? I mean, what are your thoughts? And I don't know, thoughts of council. And then the other part is there enough language in here that you think that it's going to be Lake Oswego focused?
Yes to both of those questions. So on the first front, I think all of these programs have at least soft caps, right? We know there are hard caps in terms of how much money that each selection committee can allocate, right? That's what you would be authorizing tonight. So they can't spend more than the money that they don't have the authority to give away any more money than you've given them. But in terms of individual proposals, I believe for the municipal grants, the soft cap is at $2,500 per proposal. For the social services grant, it's $10,000 per proposal. And for the historic preservation and education grants, it's, I think, about $5,000, but there's a little bit of nuance in there too. However, we did want to reserve a little bit of discretion for these selection committees. So if somebody came in and said, I really need $3,000 in order to pull off this event, we don't say, well, sorry, you're going to have to go, knock on doors to get the final $500, right? We still have the ability to operate within, to award a little bit more. As for making sure that these grants are like Lake Oswego specific, I think that my read is that all criteria very specifically say that that we are aiming to fund things that benefit Lake Oswego residents. In the case of the municipal grants, those are events and projects. In the case of social services or organizations, it is providing social service to Lake Oswego residents. And so that provides very clear guidance. And we also, I think our critical safeguard too is that the members of these selection bodies are either our municipal grant subcommittee or our historic resources advisory board, which are all members of this community who are very focused on investing in this community and very deeply understand the purpose of allocating these funds. And so even if we don't have like a very, very firm exclusionary language in our proposal, I have a really hard time imagining there ever be a situation where they decide to give away our tax dollars to a proposal that's not related to our community.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to put those safeguards in place
Absolutely.
that you feel. Okay, great, thank you.
Makes good sense. So we have the 100, I mean, we're keeping the 160,000 that we always had in the pot, but 30 of that is moved to the neighborhood, which is, I guess, staying in the planning budget. then?
Correct,
Is that-
yes.
Okay,
And the rest has been consolidated in the council budget.
council budget. Okay, that
Yes.
makes good
That's good.
sense.
Yeah.
Yes. And the neighborhoods for the projects and whatnot are still encouraged to then apply for council goal.
Absolutely.
Outside of this, of the events or related expenses that we're allowing. And
Yes, and we've got some very specific language in there about the types of things that will be supported. And many of the things that folks would apply for in the neighborhood enhancement program can continue to be applied for through the council goal grant. And this, if anything, I think one of the conversations I had with the neighborhoods that they were excited about is that this allows anybody, even if they are not currently affiliated with their neighborhood association, to put an idea forward. And if they put an idea forward that's really good and has the potential to bring their neighbors together, we also have a checkpoint in there where they need to check in with their neighborhood association. So it allows folks to come at this proposal from whatever type of organic group they may already have, and it provides the opportunities to strengthen our neighborhood associations and strengthen our associational bonds by eliminating barriers to entry.
Okay, wonderful.
Very cool.
No questions? No?
Cool.
Well, I also want to recognize that this is your final time appearing before us, sadly. And I know you're probably getting the goodbye wagon, goodbye train, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
We had our own thing with the youth council last night, but everyone knows that, Quinn has taken on variety of tasks here within the city, and has just done all of them exceptionally. Working with the Youth Leadership Council, of course, overhauling our entire boards and commissions process, which has been really fun working with you on the South Shore. Well, you've done so many things. I always feel like I only know a small sliver of what everyone here does. Yeah. I know you all do a lot more than what we get to see, but in every way that I know my colleagues and I have interacted with you in the community, you've just always represented yourself and the city, the team here at the city so well, and have just done phenomenal work for the people of Lake Oswego. And for that, we'll always be indebted to you, and know that wherever the journey takes you and whatever organization and people you come across, they're going to be better for having an interaction with you. So glad that we got to be a part of that with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, yesterday, I want to add, because I work with Queen on multiple occasions, taking the kids outside our community, whether in Oregon or in Washington. And yesterday was, I think, at the park, the kids show what you represented for them. They cried, they were, you are a wonderful young man, and I think you have a bright future. Wherever you go, you put your marks, and I wish you continue with us, but, sometimes separations are
You still have a choice.
Yes.
For an hour and 15 minutes.
So thank you. Thank you very much for everything.
It has been a great pleasure working for this organization. I'm very proud to be a member of this team. You're an exceptional council, and I have an exceptional group of colleagues. And so thank you for this opportunity. It has been just an absolute joy and far exceeded my expectations when I came out here. So thank you all.
Thank you, Quinn.
Thank you.
Let's approve Quinn's last motion.
I just want to make sure that resolution passes.
Yes, let's pass Quinn's last resolution.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Probably have a good chance of passing.
No one's made a motion yet.
I'm going to make
Move
the
to
motion.
adopt Resolution
Oh,
2535.
second.
All right, the motion's been made by Councilor Corrigan, seconded by Councilor Burdick. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Quinn.
Well done.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
you.
man. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to item 9.4. This is community survey priorities, and we have Ms. Thiesing. Is she here? Oh, there you go, popping up. And we get you for the next two items here. Here we go. All right, good to see you.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Madison Thiesing. I'm the Deputy City Manager. I am here this afternoon to briefly discuss the 2025 Community Survey. For background, we have a community survey that goes out every other year that's statistically valid to measure how we're doing not only against ourselves as benchmarking, but also throughout the region and the nation. It's to measure our community's attitudes towards our city priorities, department goals, and the future vision and how they feel about city services. With that, in 2021, we were able to launch the survey for the first time. In 2023, we had our first benchmarking year, so we're coming up on our third cycle of the community survey. Within the community survey, which was attached, the 2023 one was attached to the council report. We have sections for each outward-facing department, as well as overall feelings of community trust, relations, how they feel as a sense of place. Today, I'm here to talk about the policy, the council-directed policy questions that we include during the survey as well. In 2021, we asked about library services, pedestrian safety facilities, and then emergency preparedness. In 2023, we talked about the high demand of capital projects that we had. We asked the recipients of the survey, or participants of the survey, to rank what they thought was a priority. Additionally, how much they would pay for those types of projects. We also asked about some of the themes and initiatives that came out of the library visioning. And then lastly, we were able to incorporate the different levels of initiatives for increasing affordable housing and low moderate income housing in the city. So it timed up great right before we made some large policy decisions, and then also right before city council. As a reminder, our goal is to have the community survey out in September, October, which is the statistically valid population, which then is opened up to the larger population to also take it. And then we have the results in presentation before the boards and commission summit, as well as your city council retreat in January. So this all happens from September to November, ideally. So with today, the goal is to go over what policy initiatives you'd like to have focused on for those 3 policy questions that we have at the very end of the survey. We can open for discussion, or I can provide some recommendations on where to start, however you would like to go about the conversation.
Well,
What's
give us the
recommended?
recommendation.
Okay, so some of the conversations we've been having is related to the Community Resiliency Board and feelings of belonging and connectedness. Some of the questions at the initial start of the survey talk about feeling of safety, the ability to find a job and work and home. But if we really wanted to get further into how people feel from a mental health, a community feeling side, we could introduce some questions related to that. I know that's been a big body of work for the fall, is to scope that group and what would be the priority, whether it be mental health, resiliency, or this feeling of loneliness and connection. So that could be a body of questions as well. We also will be having the South Shore Fire Station poll results coming to you shortly. We could tie in as follow-up question. So that poll has now been closed. You'll see the results soon. If we want to have a secondary question or a question or 2 related to those findings, we can do that. And then lastly, I would say anything capital. If we want to continue to talk about pathways, my next topic will be the increase for transportation funding. If we want to have community feedback on where should we prioritize our transportation dollars for the next cycle, that would be another one. So those are 3. Those are Madison Thiesing's thoughts, but we can open the door for any discussion. That was just a launch point to at least get the gears going.
I think that's very, that's very helpful. The other, the one other thing that we have on the goal list is the lawn equipment. And I kind of wonder, and I know we've heard, well, yeah, we got a lot of input on it, but you know how we tend to, you'll get input, which is great because there was a campaign, to give input. It's wonderful. But, before we move forward on that, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea just to get a little temperature check on, is that input really reflective of how the community feels about this? Because we've heard other, perspectives on that as well. And, at least we could move forward on it before going through a big community process, knowing, is this kind of an even divided thing, or is it more reflective of the input we've heard thus far, which would suggest that nearly 99.9% of residents believe this should have been done 5 years ago. So I don't know, that's something,
Well, I like the lawn equipment. I like the South Shore Station. I like the pathways and pavement. The one thing about the mental health thing, I don't know if you can get it in 3 questions. And I would say not to have that, because it just opens us up to, okay, now you have a survey that says, I don't know.
One other
kind of out
thing you
of
might
our
want to think about it, though, is, I mean, if you have a goal of having a multi-use community center on the west side, it might be nice to ask people what kind of amenities they might want to have in, right? We might even want to get us, if there was a community space on the west side, would you prioritize event space?
Okay, so that was my last one.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it was my question is, do we want to go for the community center in the Lake Grove area? And even though the bond is kind of put together and all that kind of stuff, but I think we really need to have a pointed question to the community about that. And I would say specifically, would you like to save $60 million? Oh. Oh,
I didn't take
oh,
it.
you didn't take it. I don't know. I mean, just asking the pulse, and I think it's worth the.
What would the question, what are you thinking specifically?
Well, I think it's, a fiscally responsible question more than anything else of where would you want to spend your tax dollars? And I'm not,
Again, I was thinking about asking sort of what kinds of amenities would you prioritize as opposed to, because we don't really know yet, and we won't really know until after the bond election in November. But I
right.
think we all have certain assumptions about what the amenities might be, and I'm not sure we've tested. It was just my.
Right. We did that with the library already, right? I mean, we have decent information on, or not, but not community center, so that, that was something like that.
I think having a question around a community center is good. I also don't know that we want to get so specific to say location. I think we just say, what are thoughts of a community center and what would you like to see in it? Or what's missing, but I don't know that we need to, I mean.
And we'd provide a list? Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because that is one thing,
Right.
people have been,
Yeah.
it's, the people understand what a library is, but the community center piece, like, oh, what is that?
Right.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know
what would
was
that mean?
challenging, yeah, maybe so this could help us define it better in ways that
Right. I mean, like
resonate.
questions, would you like to have an event, a place for events on the east side of town? Or the west side of town,
I don't even think we
sorry,
need to
west
talk
side.
about location. Let's just figure out what do we feel like is missing.
Yeah.
And from what the city offers, not, just in general.
I think the geography was a piece of it, just because there's nothing on the west side of town. That was the
Right.
the important piece. Like
Well, I think
nothing.
part of it is we will also get to the point of where will that space be? There's a land issue, so I don't know if we want to tackle that question. Let's tackle the need issue and the want issue, and then figure out, I mean, ideally, I think we all know we are lacking on the west side. It would be the west side, but
How much of a community drive is there for that particular element? Gotten that
first we have to
sense.
see if there's a need. Then we can figure out so I think there's multiple parts to the question.
Yeah. Some of it we know, I guess, too. I mean, I feel like the community's told us they want something on the west side.
Well, I think we
That's
all
not
want
even
something
a
on west
question.
side, but
Yeah.
there's a land issue. That's my
Well, yeah,
point,
but I
is
think
there's a land issue.
I think it's got to be intentional, because I don't think we should be adding things down to this core center over here, because I think we're getting to the point to where we're not balanced as a city. But that
Right.
just, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. We don't have land anywhere, so where would it?
But we all know that folks talk about Lake Grove, where the school and either school and the community center, or, it's the only place that we have out there that we can have community center, we talk about it.
I mean,
But, it depends on sort of what.
and just because we're saying, I guess what I'm saying is like, there might not even be a space on
Right.
the east side. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know about location at this point. I think we just need to talk about what is the need, like what does the community want?
Yeah.
And then the next question comes, okay, there is a want, there's a need here. This is kind of what needs to be put in this, then location.
Let's have Councilor Afghan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What resonates with me is that this is just feeling the temperature of our community. It's not a decision that we have to make immediately. So we can ask all sorts of questions and then go through the process of what makes sense to do, and then we go through a decision-making process. Right now, we're just wondering, as Councilor Verdict said, we're just wondering what the community is thinking.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
For sure. Thank you, Councilor Afghan. So in terms like, I guess I go back, what are we trying to learn then from
So,
this particular topic? Like
and
uses?
I mean, first of all, we do have, the good news is we have a polling firm who can help us write the questions, so we don't have to write the questions on the dais.
Yeah.
But, when I think about it, I think about the things that we've talked about are an outdoor event space specifically, and that would be specific to the west side, because we do have outdoor event spaces available already. Better space for programming for a variety of teen activities. I mean, we've talked about that pretty specifically. Spaces for classes and music and performance and and then, of course, enhanced library services. And so it seems like we could, if you're interested in sort of knowing how the community feels about those things, we could ask more general questions about event space on the west side. And I would be specific if I was talking about, an echoing of Millennium Plaza Park on the west side. And then those other sort of programmable spaces that I just listed, I would suggest to them that I agree with Councilor Afghan that what you're looking for is just, are these on people's minds or not? If it's not on people's minds, then you won't want to rush out there and do a project around them, right?
Would that be included then too? I don't see a need, an answer that someone could say, I don't see a need for any of this.
Yeah, I think we've heard that in the past. So you remember in the last survey, you did ask about if the city was going to make an investment in one of these prior program areas, what would be your highest priority? And they did give us a list, and that's how you identified South Shore as something that you wanted to work on, because that was the highest priority. And so I think that's what you're looking for, is of those things that we've identified as missing pieces in the city's program, what's on the community's mind? I mean, you could list pickleball, but I think
Well, we know where that
we know where that is. We know that's a priority for the community.
That's a good idea. So kind of a list of enhanced library, outdoor gathering space, and then the other.
Yeah, and again, I'm thinking about outdoor events, a space to have outdoor events.
Yeah. Park space.
Yeah, enhanced teen spaces. I mean, we have teen spaces now, it's just that we could have better, higher quality teen spaces.
What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
That seems okay.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
Does that make sense to you? Okay.
I'm just wondering if with the transportation bill that could come out of the legislature, will any of that money trickle down to us? So,
30%. No,
really?
20%.
20%.
20%. 50% will go to the state, 30 to the counties, and 20 to cities.
so will that pretty much be absorbed by our present day needs, or is there a possibility we may be able to offer something that we might want to
Transportation, Erica's in the back room, so just you watch her while I say this. Transportation is a black hole.
I know.
You can spend an infinite amount of money on transportation, but I do think that council, I do think you do probably, we could ask the community about that, but I think you probably do have an idea that you do have advocates for pavement, you do have advocates for bikes and peds, you do have advocates for disability access. I mean, all those advocates exist in the community, and so it's really going to be up to you as a council to set the vision for the community on those priorities. And we have millions and millions of dollars of unfunded need for pathways, for
Everything.
And we already put millions of the general fund into the transportation.
Yeah, and it's important, obviously, because it's everybody depends on a high functioning transportation system to lead their everyday lives. But I do think that there are strong advocacy groups for all of the different modes and all of the different investments, and the amount of investment that you need to make exceeds even whatever the money from the state would be. So I do think you can ask the community, but I think ultimately it'll still be up to the council to make that call.
Great, thank you.
I feel like we're on the right track with it, because people, they do want the streets paved, and they also really want the pathways built. Yeah, it's kind of, and even with the transportation bill, it's just like a maintenance, kind of a,
I don't know how much our backlog on bridge maintenance is, but it's much larger than the amount of money we're about to get from the state. So, even if you just
resources to do more, to plan more than we're already doing either.
Well, and then of course you bump up against the community's tolerance for how much of the community should be torn up and repaved at the same time. So, there are the functional limitations on transportation investments all around.
Down the road, I think the next big question will be, obviously we have the fire station now and the district's in the middle of a bond, but down the road could be these large, South Shore, Country Club, these big.
Boone's Ferry Phase 2, some of the large pedestrian investments like the sidewalk project along Boone's Ferry north of the high school. I think you have some really, really big projects, and I think the question is funding them one at a time the way you're going to want to fund them, or are you going to do what you did back in 2016 or 17 and bond them so you can do a big, you're going to have those kinds of questions with a transportation package.
Not necessarily right now, but.
What about food carts? No, I
No, people said that, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. It's a topic. Certainly, I've heard it, I mean, a lot from the youth and from young families. They go, when are we getting food carts? And I don't know if there's, obviously that would be a private development thing, but we have a policy against food carts, so.
Well, and you had it come up during council goal setting and you didn't set it as a goal. So, I mean, again, before we ask the community about it, I think I'd want to make sure that the 7 of you collectively, that you have a thought about what you want to do with the information you receive from the community.
Yeah,
Right.
it's definitely something for goal setting, you know, because it does come up. It's just a planning exercise. What do we want to do it?
I mean, it's everywhere.
Allow 'em in the
All the
parking
communities have food cart. West Lynn,
West
Portland,
Lynn,
yeah,
Oregon City,
everywhere, yeah. I mean,
Milwaukee.
why not
I
here?
mean,
Yeah.
we're the largest community in Clackamas County, and we don't have a food cart. That's what somebody told me the other day.
Yeah.
And I go, well, we have a lot of great restaurants. So anyway, it was pretty kind of, but this could be in the Lake Grove
Yeah,
plan as well. So you put a community center with food carts, they will come. So just saying. But anyway. And I don't know, Jessica may kill me. Do we say anything about tree policy?
well, we already have that
the tree.
underway, I mean, I don't know.
We don't want any input on that.
You've done a lot of community outreach and you have more community outreach to go on trees. I'm not sure a general question of the community is actually going to be useful for you in your decision-making process for updating the code.
Okay.
Whereas I think the other topics you guys have talked about, like lawn equipment, community amenities, you had another one that was really good, the first one. Oh, no, that was the mental health one. That one's challenging. I think we need to do some more thinking on that before we ask
Yeah.
the community about it.
I mean, we hear, I think one thing Madison and I were talking about was, you know, general like stressors of, like we hear a lot about cost of living, you know, that the cost of things have gone up. We know that a large chunk of people are like housing cost burdened here, spending 30%, a lot of people even 50% of their income on their housing, a lot. And getting like a sense of where are those burdens, you know, is it with food? Is it with housing, healthcare, you know, like getting a general sense. And we break it down by demographic data so we can see like how, you know, where maybe do we need to pinpoint a little more. It can help us with how we invest in kind of social services and I kind of identify those stressors. Because you hear about it a lot, but it's not something people write us about, you know, like I'm worried about my housing, but we know what's out there. I don't know.
I think if we went that route, I think is it our role as the city to respond to that, or are we using this data to then make better connections within the community? So maybe that is what we mill on, is if we get that feedback, do the grants, for example, now tie into those priorities, or do we have more coordination going on with county? Like I think it wouldn't be
I think the challenge is what's actionable for us about that. And I think we'd have to do some more thinking. I'm going to put that in the community resiliency bucket, saying we need to think about that for 2 years from now. Madison, the other thing that occurs to me, just listening to them talk, is any questions we might ask about sort of resident habits relative to restaurants and retail. I mean, you guys have set a goal around economic development. Could we gather some information? Where does the community shop? Where do they dine? If they wanted to shop locally, what are they looking for? I mean, maybe something that would drive decision-making about our economic development strategy, or decisions around Foothills, or some of the other big policy conversations you have where the questions about supporting our retail businesses might come up.
Yeah.
But again, that also probably needs a little bit of refinement. That's just a loose thought in terms of like,
I think that's a survey unto itself, almost,
it could be.
to get the right information back.
Where do
I
people
don't think
actually
you can-
shop?
'Cause we're
Where do
only
they
limited
actually
to,
dine?
what,
3 little
maybe
policy questions.
6 or 8 additional questions.
3, I think.
We aim for 3, just because the survey already is
It's pretty
pushing
long.
15 minutes.
so-
It's also okay if we only have 2, and then I can always come back with a third as a recommendation based off of department conversations, because that's one thing I haven't yet started. The housing question last time came from the work that Eric Olson and Jessica were doing. So it could come up. I might have one from a department that I can bring forward as a meatier policy question as well.
So we're asking a lot of the same questions, so we have benchmarks.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And we get a lot of the communication, that's our communication piece. We already asked about that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah, in fact, that kind of informs some of our goals. It would be good to economic development, because on one hand, it's like, we're focusing on both things, like assisting the businesses we have, a lot of which have closed, so it's like,
Well, and also we're planning new areas, and so understanding how much commercial or retail ought to be included or not included. We don't want to plan for something that's not in our future, right?
That's right. We want to set things up, and that kind of goes to the food carts, like you want to.
But Councilor Wendland's point is a good one in that when we do some of that work, we're going to be asking the community extensively about the specifics. And so maybe that goes into a different project as opposed to this all-purpose. I do think what you're looking for is the temperature of the community. Like, what are they thinking about? What are they feeling? And so this question needs to be pretty general.
And we do know, in past surveys, we know people love the local business community. They say it. We hear it. But loving it is one thing.
And spending money is
another thing. And obviously, there's lots of local businesses that are well supported. But then there's others that, just in this last year, that and it's hard to we'll never know fully what the reasons are, because it's too complicated to, for us as a city, we're never going to understand fully, because the information is not available. There's many factors that could go into it. But why different businesses close. But we can help set things up, for success, planning the retail in the right way. And that goes with the food carts as well. Those are some of the highest turnover businesses there are. It's like a good idea, seemingly, because I know people like the variety, but, that's a tough business. And if it's not set up in a thoughtful way, like they've done in other communities where they're popular, then it's just a turn and burn, And so it just has to be done thoughtfully, otherwise they're kind of become exploited in a way. Okay. So we have.
You have enough feedback that we're
have
going to double the number of questions?
lawn equipment.
And then the community center needs and wants ranking. I'll come back with a third one as I meet with departments. And then if we end up not finding a third one, it's also okay.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds good. So now we're going to talk about legislative update.
Yes.
You're back.
I'm back. Thank you. As another round of introductions, I'm Madison Thiesing, Deputy City Manager. I am here for the 2025 legislative session update. So we are officially in the home stretch of the 2025 legislative session. The constitutional deadline is less than 2 weeks away, which is June 29th. So yes, two weeks out. Since the council report was submitted, I did want to update you that Senate Bill 916, the striking bill, did pass out of Senate. It's going to the governor for signing. We should expect that does get signed. And then number two, and the meaty part of the conversation, will be the transportation package was introduced officially as a bill, House Bill 2025, and that was released right after the council packet got finished. And the new amendments are being proposed and posted today. I've already seen 3 different versions of changes. It's because last week they had all their public hearings. Now they're officially in work session. And so we're going to start seeing the proposed changes as they trickle in. One thing to note, they're going to need to move really fast to negotiate some of these things because we are up against deadline. The highlights for House Bill 2025 as they've been introduced, not necessarily what's been currently in the proposals. It's a 170-page document, and it goes through a lot of the things we actually had been advocating for during 2023, during the off cycle, and then a lot of the work that the C4, the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee for the Mayors, have been also advocating on. So that's a really positive thing. They really took the time through the off cycle for the road show when they went around throughout the state to hear priorities. And so some of the highlights, I just want to recognize that really were things that we had advocated for, which were to continue to support the 50-30-20, the supporting the ODOT accountability and oversight, creating also the increase to gas tax, and then a comprehensive view of the different revenue cycles. So that's not only the gas tax, but it's looking at how are we doing licensing and fees and EVs and various taxes that are on. Additionally, transit, it was a big piece of this as well. And so whether there can be conversation about how that's done, but transit is a priority in the 2025 bill. So to highlight what is currently proposed, it's maintaining the 50-30-20 split. It will be raising the state's gas tax by 15 cents. The gas taxes will rise with inflation. We'll see an increase in the vehicle registration and license fees. That includes titles, registrations, the driver's ed test, the license itself. There will be a 2% on the sale of this 2% sale on new cars, 1% tax on used cars. There will be a new vehicles driven per mile fee, so that was basically paying for what you use, a road usage fee for EVs and hybrids. There's an increase to transit funding through the statewide transportation improvement fund, which is the STIF payroll tax. That's directly only going to transit. And then one big thing will be setting aside money for the high priority projects, high priority regional significance, I guess you could call it, highway projects. So that's Interstate I-5 corridor, so the Rose Quarter, Abernathy Bridge, 205 freeway widening, the Newburgh-Dundee bypass, and then the State Highway 22 bridge in Salem. So they actually called out projects that need to get done. Some of those projects are carryover from 2017, but those are also ones that have also struggled in the last few years of getting completed and actually getting off the ground. The last thing I do want to note with the accountability and oversight, the ODOT will be required to have audits, again, as proposed right now in the bill. They will be required to have audits of their financials, their ongoing capital projects as the projects are underway, and the management of the department. So more of a deeper dive into operations. And then lastly, the governor will be now appointing the Director of Transportation as opposed to the Oregon Oregon Transportation Commission, OTC, separately. So that's in a nutshell what is being proposed. I think we should see some changes today. I haven't seen actually the amendment about having a task force study about transit, which Mayor Joe Buck might want to speak on a little bit more, but there's going to be some small tweaking of amendments. The other thing to note, the Republicans still haven't walked out, and so there's a potential of how this could end for the next 2 weeks. Right now it is a bipartisan and priority, but what that looks like of how much money and taxes should be increased to cover the ongoing maintenance and priorities of transportation throughout the city, or the state. This week also the fiscal impact finally was released, which is projected to be a $2 billion revenue, they are supposed to be generating $2 billion in revenue with all these new increases.
That's $2 billion over
A year.
A year.
Was it a year now?
Yeah.
So it starts by $1 billion per year for the first couple years, and then it will go up to being an additional $2 billion per year by the time everything cycles in. Because that's the other thing. These are all, they're not happening all at once. They're going to cycle in and they're going to increase over time. So that is where we're at right now with transportation.
I think they just, at 3 o'clock, they posted this is a, yeah, is this the dash 15?
I was going to say, I was looking back there. So their work session, they have a information session this evening at 5 o'clock. So we'll be starting soon. A work session then tomorrow, and that's currently what's on the calendar.
I know there's been this latest dash increases the STIF. Some of our attention in Clackamas County has been focused on the STIF and the increase to the payroll. Now it looks like the increase to that payroll tax for employees has gone up from what it was initially. And I still don't see any mention, although it's honestly, it's a little complicated to read this amendment language. But it looks like it's going up to 0.4. I thought it had been at 0.3.
It was.
Yeah,
that is new.
Now it's to 0.4. That's and one issue with that for us in Clackamas is just the general lack of, and this is felt by all communities in Clackamas, and all of the mayors in urban Clackamas at least signed on to a letter asking that this bill direct the formation of a work group to create more collaboration between the transit agencies, TriMet being the large provider, and then some of the smaller agencies, and look for just different ways to collaborate, because obviously the way people use transit in the metro area has changed significantly since the pandemic, and ridership in TriMet is way down, and their funding has not gone down. In fact, they're funded mostly through the employer-paid payroll tax, which has only gone up, as wages go up and they keep collecting more and more. And even their fares have gone up, even as ridership has dropped dramatically. But they haven't changed anything about how they operate, and service really has not improved in large sections of the metro area, mostly in Clackamas County. So when our employees now have to pay this larger stiff, and TriMet really has a stranglehold on how that money is spent, we are essentially, all businesses and employees in Clackamas County, just subsidizing transit in the rest of the region. And so we find that unacceptable, and are really trying to work with TriMet and providers to come to the table and figure out a new way forward, but it's been challenging. So that's kind of where the mayors, sit in general, and C4 in general, on this topic. And we're looking to get better transit representation on JPAC as well. And as the city's rep on JPAC, I'm expected to represent the small transit providers through Clackamas, of which I know nothing about. Yet TriMet, when I asked why they don't have a TriMet board member representing TriMet, since the rest of us are elected officials, and why they send staff, they said, well, the TriMet board, they don't really know what's going on with the agency. So they get to have staff. But we expect, a city mayor to represent both the needs of his city and all the other cities, and also small transit agencies, because they said, oh, well, they're just volunteers. It's like, well, yeah, that have jobs. It's like, yeah, like me. I mean, come on. So it's very challenging to advocate at the table, when, most of us are just volunteers that have limited, professional, if any, in my case, no professional knowledge of this whatsoever, and have to advocate against a large, very large transit agency, which has really all the resources and staff in the world to get, what they want. And they have lobbyists in the building, down in Salem, and we just can't compete with that. But they're doing it with our tax dollars, so that's adds to the frustration. So the communities of Clackamas, I feel like, are doing a good job advocating, but, these are steep, and we just talking about with the survey, I mean, these are big chunks, coming out of people's paychecks. It's like not insignificant. And it would be one thing if people were actually getting service, for it, but unfortunately for a lot of these people, they're just not. It's just going to fund projects in other places. And now TriMet has projects there where they already might have even 2 modes of transit, and they're adding more. They might have a light rail, they might have a bus, now they're adding additional transit to the same line. So it can be difficult, to see how these investments are really being distributed equitably through the region. Anyway, that's my rant. All done. Oh, well, it keeps going off. Yes, of course. But hold on, your mic keeps going off.
Liability thing for the parks get resolved?
Yes, that
So
has
we're all good
passed,
with
and
that?
it has
Okay.
been signed.
And it's to our liking?
Yes.
Everything is good?
Yes.
Okay.
Recreational immunity has been restored. So that happened a month ago, I believe.
Right, but I mean, it's all good and no indications that it won't be signed or anything? Okay.
There's the other, there's a drone bill too.
Yes.
And I know our police have started using the drones.
Yes, and we did submit testimony for support of that one.
Okay.
And there's questions about the usage of drones in light of what is currently happening with protests outside of our area.
Yeah, that's a
Yes,
concern,
that's where it's
right?
coming up.
Yeah, I've heard it's not, it seemed like kind of a cut and dry, but I think it's kind of being debated a bit, the drones.
Yes.
Yeah. They used the drone to catch the Minnesota guy, the killer. They used it to track him in the woods. It's a good tool, but yeah, people are concerned about the overuse or whatnot, so they're.
Like the thousands of cell phones that are recording every minute?
I know.
That's
I know,
interesting. Whatever.
And then the other thing that really our youth had advocated for was the flavor tobacco ban, which I understand might be dead.
I actually haven't looked up that one, so I can look that up.
I heard it was amended to the point where the advocates wouldn't support it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate, That could be something we might have to deal with locally.
Governor's housing bill, so 2138, it is moved to the House for vote, and then it will go to Senate. So it moved out of, it was in Ways and Means. I believe it was a budget ask, and so that is still, now it's going to the floor for vote, and I would imagine that it passes. That would be updating the code, and then, oh, excuse me, maybe the other one you were referring to was the shot clock times. That one also did pass and is moving to the governor's office. It did get amended. The one that did pass, they now are matching the engineering review to be the land use timing, so it's 120 days. So I have talked to engineering already about that, so that one is moving forward. We did know that change was gonna happen.
And it's good for us?
No, but
Okay, yes. How about the housing? What are the
governor's one?
Oh,
2138, that is going to be, so it had work session last week. It's moving to the House to vote on, so floor votes. I would imagine it moves forward just as it had moved pretty fast to begin with it being a governor's bill. There are some code changes we would need to update, as well as some timelines. I'm looking back at Jessica. There was something about timelines that I'd have to go back through. But yes, there would be, we'd have to update our codes even after we just did that work.
Okay.
Does it include, do they get the money for the city support?
For shelter?
No, for the code updates, technical. Technical assistance.
I don't remember what that ended up at. I'll find out. So I'll look back on the youth tobacco and then the 2138 technical funding.
Yeah, there really hasn't been anything out there about that tobacco. Okay. Thank you for tracking all of this. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this transportation.
And then I was told that the language for the transportation work group idea should be introduced today if the text actually got put through with legislative concepts.
Oh, okay.
So we should see it before 5 o'clock.
Oh, okay. In maybe a different amendment still forthcoming.
There was a couple already posted that did not have it. So I would
see.
imagine there's still another one coming.
Okay. Yeah, be interesting to see. I heard there could be some maybe slow. Some of the pushback is just it's a lot of tax increase all at once, and to stretch it out a little bit over time. I mean, some investment is needed to keep the system healthy and whatnot. But I know people are nervous about ODOT's past performance and accountability and whatnot are concerns, and then just the general tax burden on folks is understandable concern too. So, all right.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, how's everyone feeling?
We're good.
Moving on, good, okay. It's great, okay, we are now at the public hearings. First public hearing of the night is a consideration of resolution, as a hearing on Resolution 25-27. This is a revising master fees and charges. And to talk to us about this, we have Anthony Markey, the LORAC Superintendent, and Sydney Fletcher, Recreation Supervisor, both with the Parks and Rec Department. We welcome you both here, and we are going to start with a review of our hearing procedures by Ms. Osnak.
Thank you, Mayor Buck, members of the council. This is public hearing, involves a legislative policy decision, which is in your sound discretion. Sound discretion. The public hearing process will begin with a presentation by staff. And the testimony, if any, will then be received from the public, subject to the time limit set forth in the agenda. And I'll ask now, as I will with every item, if there is a conflict of interest, and I'll pause to allow anybody to declare one. Hearing no declarations, there are no conflicts of interest, and we're ready for the staff report.
Take it away.
Good afternoon, Mayor Buck and members of the City Council. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Anthony Markey, and I'm the LORAC Superintendent. And joining me is...
Hi, I'm Sydney Fletcher. I'm a Recreation Supervisor with the department, and I'm also assigned with oversight of the rentals of the LORAC and Oswego Hall.
We're here to present and discuss the proposed master fees and charges for both the LORAC and the Oswego Hall. In the packets you received, you'll find the updated user fees. We're happy to answer any questions you may have regarding these updates.
Great. Okay. Yes. Well, that was That
Short and sweet.
was Director Cross
and sweet.
style presentation.
Yes. Well done.
We learned from the best.
All right, did everyone see, everyone saw the report with the updates to the fees? Are there any questions? Okay, we're gonna open the,
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Oh,
of course.
You want to, so have you heard any, I know these are proposed, but are these pretty much market rates? Are we pretty much well within the confines that we'll be successful in?
Yeah, they're comparable to all of our cost recovery program, essentially. So the first fees that were submitted were originally designed to kind of be an overview of what we thought we could charge. At that point, we didn't have occupancy. We also didn't have limits, basically, to how what is the word I'm looking for?
I'm not sure.
The fire department, what they give us so they could seated occupancy.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any of that information. So once we opened and started to see the requests that were coming in, we were able to kind of review those fees, what would be like our nonprofit rates, right? Neighborhood associations, Rotary clubs, things like that. And then what would be considered like a private use event. So grad parties, birthday parties and such. So this is way more in line with our cost recovery on that.
Right.
okay, we're gonna have the public hearing. Gonna ahead and open the hearing. And ask if there's anyone here who wants to testify on resolution 2527. Okay, seeing none, go ahead and close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt resolutions 25-27.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made by Councilor Windland, seconded by Councilor Boop. Is there any discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Can we get
So before they leave, can I ask Anthony to give you an update on the driving range and the swimming pool?
And also just in general, how's it going?
Well, it's been going pretty amazing, actually. Yesterday was our first day ever of having the pools open. Martha just mentioned that we've had a little setback today. Our competition pool went down for we were doing a filtration system, which is a normal system, and the drain clogged. So unfortunately, we can't have people in the competition pool if there's no water circulation in the pool. So we're working on to fix that, contacting our contractor, and we have Bruce and a bunch of good people over there working on it. The driving range, it seems to be going really well since we've done the reduced, I don't know what you call them, reduced hit, yeah, low velocity, thank you, golf balls. I haven't seen any of them going over the fence, or I haven't heard anything, and usually that's a pretty significant thing. We shut the place down if it happens. And it seems like the majority of the golf balls are going like 3/4 of the way as opposed to the whole way. So, but I would say it's been going pretty outstanding at the LORA so far. It was amazing to see all the kids in the pool yesterday. I mean, it was packed. Like we had all our lifeguards out. It was great, and I'm really proud of the team and what we were able to do in such a short notice. We got a week between getting the license and getting the people in there. So training and getting the lifeguards up to speed. It was a really good turnaround for them. So.
What is the feedback you get from the players on those balls?
I haven't heard anything too bad about it. I think they're just happy to have it open at this point in time. Yeah.
That's good. So can they hit the drivers with those balls?
What I heard the last update was they were going to give 2 weeks without drivers and woods and then see how that went. And then they were going to slowly introduce the woods and then maybe drivers depending on how it went. So they kind of want to put their toe in the water, so to speak, before they, introduce the other two. So.
Okay, but we're sticking with these balls. Okay, so we couldn't fix the fence.
I'm not sure about that. To my knowledge, no, not at this time. I think it was going to take a longer process to do it, but I'm not sure.
Oh, is it still the plan that we're going to?
It's more important for us to get that driving range open than it is for us to.
Yeah, but are we going to address the fence?
I think we're still working on the fence, yes.
Do we really know how they were getting over the fence into these yards?
I quote, I'm not sure exactly. I think there was some gapping in between the poles and the fence and the netting, and I think Jeff and his team brought the contractors out to close those holes, but I'm not sure exactly how it was getting through, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, it is interesting.
Everybody has a theory about slices and hooks and anyway. Everyone has a theory, and I'm not sure we know enough. And I will say, since Jeff Monroe's here, he's not really that excited about these low-velocity balls, but if it's going to allow us to keep the driving range open and allow people to hit, and hopefully eventually hit all of their clubs, I think it's a better compromise than having the potential of somebody getting injured with a golf ball.
We have to have that working right with high velocity. But anyway, how's it going occupancy-wise? I mean, do we have space for everybody? Is it like just way?
Yeah, there was always room for everybody, you know. We have to learn to share some of the spaces. Like the weights and cardio has definitely been busy. And I would say during when school was still going on before the pools were open, we had a really big contingency of high schoolers coming over. Their high schools were using the thing and the weights and cardio room and the gymnasium shooting basketball. And I'm glad to see it because if they're there, they're being safe and, you know, not getting into trouble. So as far as the pools, the competition pool, it's amazing. That is one of the best pools around, period, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And I haven't seen anybody having to actually even share a lane other than our swim club and those programs like that. So yeah, so far so good.
Now, can people still buy a membership?
Yes.
Okay, people can buy a membership. And are the classes well subscribed?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
so we added, there's free membership classes that folks can take. So once you get a membership, there's about 12 fitness classes, and then there'll be some aqua fitness classes that you can attend anytime. And then we still have our specialty classes. So if you want to take a specific yoga or spin or sit and be fit or something like that, you can register for that externally.
Yes.
And then our fitness coordinator also added in personal training sessions, and they've been very, very popular.
Okay,
So.
good.
We'd like to add private lessons, but we kind of want the same thing for the aquatics, you know, because we've got a pretty big demand for that, but we haven't got to that point yet, just because we wanted to get the pools open and get our swim lessons. So we started swim lessons on Monday and aqua fitness on Monday, so it's good to see those, but private lessons will be the next tier probably in a couple weeks, yeah. So.
How's the software and interaction with members on making reservations and?
So far, so good. So yeah, so once we knew that we needed to adjust the fees, we took down our website that would have the request form on it. Starting July 1, we'll start to take requests again for room reservations and rentals. So we're going to be prioritizing Parks and Recreation programs first, and then we'll open that up to the public. So Oswego Hall will be available for rental for special events, meetings, community meetings, anything like that, golf tournaments. And then the event room will be available for meetings as well as pool parties.
And are they gonna rent the pool?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because,
So the MOU that we have with the school district is a separate use agreement. So the school district doesn't have to use the same system that the public would use. So they are able to use that for competitions, for rentals, for practices and things like that. And then if someone else, so an outside user group, say they wanted to use it for a graduation party or something like that, they would have to go through the external system.
But like, because I'm asking because, and.
Do you want to rent the pool?
And no, because, and it's honestly like maybe a conflict, but like our school, we are a French school in France. Student, elementary school has to learn how to swim.
Sure.
And we were using the school district public pool. Then it closed. We were renting at the Bay Club.
Okay.
Is there a possibility to rent there? That's
Yes, there is. I think that's going to be more for the public use like that. So the things like that will be more like on the weekends because we are booked from. Yeah,
no, we are school. We cannot do weekends.
I'll fill you up some inflatables in my backyard.
Okay. No, I just, okay, no conflict. I'm not asking for any favor. Yeah, I'm asking, it's questions, you know.
I can say that most of the rentals we will be doing for the pools will be on the weekends. So you can, So.
Good. And then how about the rounds? How are the golf rounds? Good?
I've heard overwhelmingly positive from people. The only one person I heard was like, say something bad. It was like, well, I could use all my clubs in my bag, you know, and that was the only one. Other than that, I mean, I'm at the front desk consistently, and they love the golf course so far. Yeah,
okay, and I mean, is it full? Are people?
It's booked and busy.
It's booked.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we going to do the tournament, city tournament?
We do the mayor's tournament, and Sunday we had our biggest round ever between the golf course and the driving range. $10,000 in one day.
Wow.
Course is full, the range is full. As far as going back earlier, staff rented equipment, we've got the bottom of the range buttoned up as much as it can be buttoned up all the way up. Once we started getting to slopes, the machines wouldn't go up anymore, so we couldn't do any more work on that. Balls are still kind of getting out underneath, but we're working on a solution with that as well. Buttoned up at the end and up the side. So as far as balls originally getting over, there's lots of theories. They're brand new balls, a lot of brand new clubs people have, so it could have been the perfect storm. Right now, we'll keep going with the wedges because it's working, it's full. Hopefully get to some
Great.
That's
Okay.
very good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
they're considered
Just flight.
Yeah.
So they won't hit airplanes?
15% less than.
Oh, okay. So it's not like too much of a
Not wiffle
noticeable
balls.
No,
feel.
gosh, no.
Oh, okay. That's good. Okay. Great. Well, thank you.
Balls on the range.
I know. Well, I'm going to have to practice for the tournament,
Well, I've heard nothing but
like big time.
wonderful, glowing reports from everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it just,
I haven't heard.
Yeah.
it's just the wow factor. So both operationally, facility-wise.
Yeah.
So excellent.
Go ahead.
So-
I was sad to see that Counselor Raff wasn't here because I see him almost every
Well, he
day
is
in
like
the
our
weight and
biggest
cardio room.
proponent. He's always, does he have his own
Yeah.
like little corner
Yeah,
where he puts his towel now?
Yeah, we're just going to start ribboning off certain areas where
yes.
He said he pulled his bulgy muscles, is what he texted me earlier. So that's why he can't be here. So, no, I'm just kidding. He did not say that. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate
for
you
having
being
us.
here.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, where is this one gonna be?
Okay, next public hearing we have is on Resolution 25-32. This is the adoption of a supplemental budget. We have Director Cross. And before Director Cross presents, we will again start with a review of the public hearing procedures by Ms. Osnack.
Again, this is a public hearing that involves a legislative policy decision that's within your sound discretion. Public hearing process will begin with a presentation by Mr. Cross, if we can call it a presentation. And then testimony, if any, will be received from the public, subject to the time limits set forth in the agenda. I'm going to ask if there are conflicts of interest, and I'll pause briefly to allow you all to make them, and if not, I will declare that there are no conflicts of interest, and we're ready for the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Sean Cross, Finance Director. This is our final, hopefully, final, because there's only, has to be, I'd have to get it in the paper by tomorrow, if not, for this biennium 23-25. Most of the changes, or a couple of the changes, there's 4 changes on here, but 2 of the changes are departments that brought in extra revenues, but they also had the expenditures to go along with it. Like tennis, they brought in more, well, they sold more classes for both youth and adult classes, so they had to pay out more for the contractors to teach the classes. So that's covering that. Fire, we didn't really budget in the previously for them going on wildland fires. They've gone. We spent the overtime. The state's paid us back for that. This is really just adjusting the budget to allow for that. The small one down here from tourism is just a little bit additional for Festival of the Arts. And then the bigger one is $2 million for the Parks and Rec Department. Most of their projects, I mean, they had a lot, they had like 5 or 6 projects going at the same time with increased construction costs. Some of them are a little bit over. I mean, small amount. I mean, it's a percentage, but actually a large dollar amount when you're looking at LORA. Like I said last time, and that's from not maybe what their adjusted budget for the project is, but what we had budgeted, what we thought we were going to spend in that time frame. And that's the 4 adjustments, if there's questions.
Good. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah, that was like a novel.
Those are big numbers, so.
Now, we don't have the final reconciliation on the LORAC yet.
No. So, yeah, so parks, the adjustment is for $2 million. That's if we need it. Right now, it's looking about 1.1, but like I said, this is as far as I can make the adjustments for June 30th. We keep having to bring back the costs for June that we receive in July and August back, and so This is more of a backstop, not.
This is
I
a
think,
budget authority allowing us the flexibility to make sure that if the bills come in slightly higher than we expect, that we can actually pay them legally, but we don't expect to spend all of it.
Okay. And we're
So
working
it's an
now.
authorization.
Yeah.
And some of this is timing. where
Correct.
You would
Yes.
anticipate paying it in July or August, but.
Well,
you
yeah,
would-
so part of it is timing because some of it is like phase 2 of RESEEK. We're getting a grant, but it's a reimbursement grant. So we actually have to pay first and then we'll get the money back.
And then,
Yeah.
okay.
And so some of it's timing. And then with the weather this last May and June, things that we're expecting to do in July and August, some of the stuff might be coming in now, which is good. It's just we need to do an adjustment for it.
Right.
And the 10,000 for the festival, is it they're asking or it's us, they don't need more or?
No, you'll remember that Andrew Edwards was here and asked for you to actually essentially double the contribution. We can't do that in a single year, but so this is the first year of probably a 3 to 4 year phase-in of increasing the city's contribution to festival.
Yeah.
And they were able to demonstrate that their costs for putting the festival on have actually substantially increased.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I support, I'm just asking if it's, we need to put more or, I know.
Not for this year,
Yeah.
and partly because the festival's this weekend. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the money's been spent already.
Tents are really expensive.
The, and then, and we're working with the contractor on the LORAC for final, the delays and all the, yeah.
The building.
All over it, okay, all over it, okay.
Can I move to adopt resolution 25?
Oh, well, no, we have to have the
Oh,
public
we
hearing
have to close
first. Let's
the.
open the,
Oh,
we're gonna open the
that.
public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to testify? See, there's no one here to testify. I'm gonna close the public hearing and then Counselor Wendland.
Move to adopt resolution 2532.
Second.
All right, the motion's been made by Counselor Wendland and seconded by Counselor Boop. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Counselor Afghan, yes, okay. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Director Cross.
Thank you.
And another hearing.
The next public hearing is on Resolution 25-28. The resolution of the council acting as the Public Contracting Review Board pursuant to ORS 279A.060, adopting findings and approval for a special procurement for professional services and exempting the contract from competitive solicitation in order to negotiate a professional services contract with Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. for the new wastewater treatment plant. We have Mr. Broadus, the Director of Special Projects, here to present on this, and we will again start with a review of the hearing procedure by Ms. Osnak.
Thank you, Mayor Buck. Now is the time set for public hearing on Resolution 2528. This is a public contracting policy decision, which is, again, within your sound discretion. Even though it is discretionary, as the mayor pointed out, and as I will point out, it must also comply with our state and local contracting codes. Specifically for this procurement, it's the procedures related to design-build procurement. The public hearing process will begin with a presentation by staff. Testimony that will then be received from the public, subject to the time limits set forth in the published agenda, which do not include time taken up by questions. I'll ask if there are any financial conflicts of interest and pause briefly. Hearing no conflicts, we're ready for the report.
Broadus.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilors. Thank you for having me. My name is Stefan Broadus. I am the Director of Special Projects here at the city. And I too have stylized this presentation in the footsteps of great Director Sean Cross, and so I will try to do him proud with this. This is related to a special procurement for the wastewater treatment plant project. And as we continue to collaborate with our contractor to build their proposal to provide the city with design, build, operate, and maintain services over the next 30 years, there is some data collection activity that needs to take place on site. These services include both geotechnical analysis as well as cultural resources analyses. And these are needed in order to optimize the design, minimize the risk, and assist us with federal permitting. In other words, this work that we are looking to take on in the next few months is an investment in the project schedule as well as the budget. So when we approached procuring these services for the project, the special procurement to Jacobs Engineering Group was by far the delivery method that was in the best interest of the city, in the best interest of the project. So with that, I'm asking you to approve Resolution 2528, to adopt the findings, and to approve the special procurement. And happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Corrigan?
And this is something that you and I talked about, but I thought it might be good to talk about it because people may have this question. And that is where you have one provider. My question was, how do we know that we're getting the best price? So would you address that?
Yeah, and this special procurement, in regards to price, this procurement is for professional services, and professional services, even when done through a standard procurement, not a special procurement, is not a cost competitive way of negotiating scope and fee. So if this were to have gone through a standard procurement, really the only difference in the way that the eventual price would have come to be would have been there would have been a very lengthy qualifications review process in which the selection committee would have chosen the top ranked or most qualified vendor, and then we would have entered into a negotiation phase with that vendor, but it would not have been a bid situation. This is not a hard bid type of procurement, just due to the nature of the services. So really what this special procurement allows us to do is, one, award the contract to a vendor who is uniquely qualified to provide these services due to their already existing relationship on the project. And then in doing so, it doesn't reduce the price competitiveness of what this procurement would be, as a negotiated scope of services would have been the same regardless of procurement approach.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this, and I don't think anyone here to ask if there's anyone here to testify. I don't see anyone here to testify, so we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and entertain a motion, this resolution.
Trudy.
Moved. Hear me, Kim?
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilor Corrigan and seconded by Councilor Book. Is there any further discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broadus.
Yeah, give us
Appreciate
the
it.
project, give us the order.
Yes, very special direction.
Well done.
Thank
Yes.
you. Good job. Okay, any information from council? Anyone have anything to share?
Ooh,
No?
what did we have?
Oh, Councilor
So-
Corrigan.
Yeah, the South Shore Fire Station, we had a mayor's roundtable.
Yes, we had that.
And it was great. It was really great. We had really good presentations from our committee chair and our assistant fire chief. And people were allowed to tour the building, and I think it went pretty well.
Yes. Yeah,
Mayor did a
it was good.
Good job.
And community members had good questions too. You know, it wasn't just, they had legitimate questions, you know, as they contemplate, you know, like, you know, the good work. They really value the work that the fire department does, for sure. And over the years, they're changing, you know, emphasis onto, you know, the medical emergencies work as opposed to the fire. And it was good for them to see. I think at the end, like I said, you know, being there really speaks for it. I mean, all of us have been there. It's not in great shape at all. So I think we're going to be talking about this next meeting too. So it's good. Yeah. Don't really have much to report regionally. Oh, Councilman.
Okay, this Sunday, it's Juneteenth at the Millennium Plaza. Please come if you can. It would be fun, and it's not gonna rain. I check it out. And no, I checked. No, at that time it won't. I checked it.
5 days from now.
Yeah, I have 5 minutes. I heard to speak, or 10, is it, or 50?
At Juneteenth?
15, yeah. Is it 20 minutes? Yeah. I don't, yeah.
Okay, you just had a couple role models that went before you.
And also, I last Wednesday I had another grandson, and
oh yes, congratulations.
Yes.
Well, that's true.
No, yeah, but I'm a grandpa, of a beautiful boy, and
Great. That's great. Congratulations.
thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah. And, I was going to say something. Oh, there's new public polling on the supportive housing services measure. It was reported on yesterday that is not good. And a couple not good things about it. One, so the support for the measure is declining severely in Multnomah County, especially, which is unfortunate since that is where the bulk of, street level homelessness occurs. And the faith in the government of Multnomah County is very low. The positive news of that was that Clackamas County had the highest scores on their, trust in government, I guess. And it's just so important. I mean, people are, just losing. I mean, we spent a lot of money so far on this program, and people just do not believe, frankly, just do not believe it's even being spent on what they say it's being spent on. And
Billions.
It's almost $1 billion. I mean, it's a lot of money. And I think, and the mayors, as a group, have been involved in this and been advocating for the fact that there has to be substantive changes to the program that people have to see on the ground before it goes back to the ballot, because they're not just going to renew it. And the counter to that has been, let's get it to the ballot before it gets worse, because the public, opinion is on the decline. So let's get it out before there's just, no good opinion of it left. But that's tough, and it's, an expensive tax for folks to pay. So that conversation will continue. Well, I think Metro Council's talking about it this week, and they want to make index, the tax to inflate, or the base level income to inflation that the tax is imposed on, and they can do that without voter approval. But in terms of going back to the voters for the extension, the polling's not good for that passing if it were to go on the November ballot. So, and the efforts around it have been, somewhat productive, but there just needs to be big overhauls in how the system is working. It just we can't spend this amount of money and on this one issue and have it continue to get worse. I mean, it's just, so sorry, that's not great. That wasn't great news, except for the Clackamas piece. That was good news. So it just speaks to the good work that we have to continue, doing at the city level here and the county level to keep building trust in government, which I think is something that we think about all the time. But at all levels, there's things that we can do much better on. There's really not much else there. Okay.
I have a couple of things. First, if you haven't seen it already, the work to remove Spirit of the Marsh, which is the art project that has been in the steps, began today. I apologize to anyone who's trying to drive on Highway 43 or A, because we did have a lane blocked while the crane was being unloaded. The work should be done this week. They were moving pretty fast when I was down there, but I know the estimate was 3 days. And then just a reminder that the city is closed on Thursday, or city offices are closed. Obviously, police department will still be working. Parks will still be open. The LORA will still be open on Juneteenth, which is a holiday we recognized a year ago. And in addition to Juneteenth, celebration at the city, Festival of the Arts is this weekend. So that's the other thing. If you're planning a trip to downtown Lake Oswego on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, please plan some extra time.
Right. Thank you. Good reminders. Right. Okay. With that, we are going to adjourn the council meeting and call to order the meeting of the Lake Oswego Redevelopment Agency. We first have consideration of the consent agenda for board members only. This is LORA Resolution 25-02, resolution of LORA appointing members to the LORA Budget Committee. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 25-02?
I move to adopt LORA Resolution 25-02.
Second.
Okay, the motion is made by Board Member Corrigan, seconded by Board Member Verdick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I abstain. So that did Counselor Afghan, okay, so that motion passes 5-0 with the chair abstaining. Okay, now to board business, we just have approval of LORA meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the December 3rd, 2024 draft LORA meeting minutes?
Move to adopt LORA minutes as written.
All right, moved by Board Member Verdict, seconded by Board Member Boop. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. With that, this meeting of LORA is adjourned. Have a good night.
What?
5 o'clock on the dot.
Wow.
Wow.